Welcome to Carlton's Math Corner. Today we are going to discuss solving equations with variables on both sides. In our last video, we talked about how to solve just like two-step equations, but now we're going to look at equations that have even more than two steps, and they have variables on both sides. So at this time, please make sure that you have your math journal, vocab packet, as well as something to write with. Okay, so our target today is I can solve equations with variables on each side. Looking at this first equation, so notice we have a variable on the left side as well as the right side. What steps do you notice? Well, step number one, do you notice that with our equation, we are focusing first of all on the variables. So we're focusing on the term that has the variable with it. What is going on here? Why is the 2m written on both sides of the equation? And why is it being subtracted? You're absolutely right. Basically, do you notice that this is a positive 2m, like there's nothing in front of it, okay? And then notice if I subtract 2 from it, well, 2 minus 2 is 0. And remember, in previous videos, we learned that equations are the same on both sides. So one side is equal to the other side, or the same as the other side. So whatever we do on one side, we have to do on the other side. So if we subtract this 2m and we get 0, so that means it has disappeared from the left side. And then we do the same step on the right side, so we subtract 2m over here. And notice where we subtract the 2m. Yeah, we subtracted it from the 5m. Why? Exactly, it's because they are like terms. They both have the same variable, and they both have the same exponent. And remember, if you can't see an exponent, it is to the power of 1. So we have 5m minus 2m, and 5 minus 2 is 3, and then the m stays the same, so 3m. So on the left side, the variable has disappeared because we subtracted it and basically got it down to 0. And so now all we have left is one term, and it's the 3, and it's a positive 3, equals, and then we have 3m minus 6. So the minus 6 stayed the same, and then 5m minus 2m, we got the 3m. So now we are down to a two-step equation. So it's kind of like it brought us back to where we were before in our previous video. And so now, notice I only have 2 steps left. Remember, we learned that we always isolate the variable. We get it by itself. That means we get rid of anything that's surrounding it, anything that's by it, and usually, actually all the time, the thing that surrounds it is something that is either added on or subtracted from. And so in this problem, we are subtracting 6 from 3m. And so we want to get rid of that minus 6. And we are always going to do the inverse operation. So we're going to do the opposite of minus 6, and that is positive 6. So if I do negative 6 plus 6, that is 0. So it has disappeared now. But whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other side. So I have to take 3 plus 6. So we get to 9. And so second step, eliminate whatever is being added on or subtracted. Now, look at the third step. It looks very familiar, correct? This looks like what we had in previous videos. Right now we have 3 times m is equal to 9, You probably could tell me 3 times what is 9, but in algebra we need to show our steps. We need to show our work because our equations are not always going to be 3 steps. There are equations that have additional steps to them. And so we need to make sure that we're always staying organized and that our work is, including the steps that we're doing. And so in this case, we're always, remember, inverse operation. We have 3 times m, so the inverse of that is division. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. Now, the reason why I don't put a 1 next to the m is because it's really unnecessary. 1 times anything is still itself. So 1 times m is still m. So m is equal to, and then we do the same thing on the other side. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now, our last step, because there's always a last step, and the last step is to always check. We need to do a check. We need to make sure that this 3 works. So if I put the 3 in here for the 2, so really, oops, 3, I meant to type 3. If I put the 3 in here for the 2, and I also over here, I put the 3 next to the 2, that's what I meant to say, and then next to the 5 because it's being substituted in for the m. Well, let's see if we get the same on both sides. So 2 times 3 is 6 plus 3 is 9. And then on the other side, on the right side, 5 times 3 is 15 minus 6. Do we also get 9? Yes. Check. So I know that my answer is correct. In algebra, you should always check your answer because it is one sure way to always be 100% accurate. Okay, check your work. Okay, so our steps that we went through. We first of all got the variable on one side of the equation, and we usually move the one that's smaller. So the 2 was smaller than the 5, so that's why we moved the 2 over. Okay, then we added or subtracted, just depending on what's the inverse. In this case, addition was the inverse on both sides. And we always do it with the lonely term, the one that stands alone with no variable. And then the last step we did was multiply or divide to get the m or get the variable by itself. And you know what? I'm going to say that's not the last step because our 4th step was check. We need to check and make sure that make sure that our work is accurate and that our answer, our solution worked. Okay, what's different about this problem? Exactly, look at this. We have an additional step. Do you notice at the top, this is our original equation. And why are these 2 terms circled? Yes, exactly. They are like terms. So well, if you look at step number 1, the 5m and the 3m have disappeared and became 8m. So what had happened was we took the 5 and we added the 3. And so we have 8m, and then the minus 6 stayed the same. So now, if you look at this problem, now it's back down to, variables on both sides, similar to the one last time. Step number 2 was now it's step number 2, but we move the variable to one side and subtract that 2, get 0, subtract that 2 because we had to keep both sides the same. So 8 minus 2 is 6. Now we're down to a 2-step. Remember, get rid of the lonely term with addition or subtraction. And then our last step is multiply or divide to get that variable by itself. And so our answer is 1.5. To always check your answer, make sure that it works. if I plug in 1.5 in for m, 2 times 1.5 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. Okay, so that's what we get on one side. On the other side, we have 5 times 1.5, that is 7.5, minus 6. Now we're down to 1.5, plus, what's 3 times 1.5? It's 4.5. So 1.5 plus 4.5 is also 6. So both sides are equal, so we know that our answer is correct. Okay, so here are the steps that we did. We added one more step, which was combine like terms. The rest of the steps are the same. And then remember, at the end, we check our answer and just make sure that it is correct. For tomorrow, I would like for you to try these equations. Please solve them and show all your work steps. Thank you so much for joining me at Carlton's Math Corner, and I look forward to meeting with you again.